talk on my research. And I thought, would you all be interested in what I did in a research lab? And I thought, probably not. So I tried to think long and hard and think about, well, what is it that I'm doing, that I'm researching at the moment, that might be of interest to any of you here? And one of the key things that I'm doing at the moment is around developing and enhancing leadership within the faculty. And in fact, one of my roles here is to develop and enhance your leadership skills, because you are the leaders of the future, whether that's in academia, industry, or business. So with that in mind, I thought I would bring leadership to this evening's session, and just start to unpick some of the key things that are important for it. So, what do you think makes a good leader? Turn to the person next to you. And I want you to picture somebody who you think shows really good leadership qualities. Put a name to that person. Name them and give me some qualities that you think are really good that make them that good leader.
Stunning red hair.
Okay, you ready to feed back to me? What were the key skills or qualities that you were discussing? All the people. What was it?
Taking up responsibility.
So there's something there about leaders take responsibility. What else?
Motivate.
Yeah.
The communication between
Effective communicator. What else?
Vision.
Yeah. What else?
Delegation.
What else?
Charisma.
Oh. Challenge me now. I'm thinking, how do I spell that? Yep. Charisma.
good crisis management.
Great chance.
Organization.
Commitment. Lead by example.
Open-mindedness.
Conflict management.
And he's independent, he or she is independent.
What was that? Independent.
Independence. Independent.
Anything else? Passion. Oh. Oh, I like a bit of passion. I think that's a perfect one to end on. So there's quite a lot of skills, traits, or abilities that we think actually make up a good leader. So thinking about that, I started to unpick, because when I do these sessions and people say to me, oh, they must have, and actually somebody who's got charisma, passion and can motivate me is the best leader that I've ever seen or worked with. And somebody else will say, well actually Judy, the conflict management, the crisis management and the organisation skills are key. And it got me thinking, well, what is essential for a good leader? And I then looked at the theories, and one of the first theories that came about was called the Great Man theory. And it's called the Great Man, and I don't wish to put any women in the room off being a leader here, because it was about military men. And it was suggesting that actually you were born to leadership, and that you had these skills, these traits, they were in you, and as you developed, you grew into your position. Well, we know that's nonsense, don't we? Yeah? Because not all men are good leaders. And so that got me to start thinking about other leadership theories. And I started looking at behavioural. Well, if there are key skills and traits, if there are key things that we think are important, is it behavioural leadership? Is that the way forward? But can we agree on all of the key skills? So if I actually asked you to just narrow this down to 3, would that be easy? No, it wouldn't, would it? And we all value different traits. And so there's not a list that you can just tick and say, well, actually, if I'm a leader, I need to have demonstrated this, 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 and this. So then I thought, oh, there's another theory out there called contingency. Cometh the hour, cometh the man. And that actually, there is a right person to lead at a right time. And this goes back to just after the war, well, during the war here in the UK, Winston Churchill. He was the right leader for the country during the war, and then as soon as the war finished, he was not elected, because he was no longer having the skills, qualities and traits to actually be an effective leader in that post-war era.
So you mean, or indicate it's context dependent, in other words.
Absolutely. So contingency leadership is context dependent, situation dependent, very much in the space and time. And I thought, yeah, I can see that, but maybe there's more to it than just that. And that's where it went on to the theory of situational leadership. And this is the thought that actually we all have the skills, traits and abilities. We all have elements of these within us, and we can learn, adapt and change. And that actually situational leadership is about wearing different hats and being a different leader in different situations. Being flexible, being adaptive, having the difficult conversations, leading by example, telling people what to do, and actually forms that spectrum. And this is the theory that is very current and is in vogue at the moment.
But I disagree partly with you.
Okay?
Because I do think that among these traits which you put on the board, there might be a few of them which might be more indicative or predictive of good leadership.
There might be, but what I'm suggesting is that they can be developed.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah? And that you're not just born with them,
Yeah, okay.
but actually a lot of these skills that originally you thought you had to have and demonstrate, actually you can learn.
Yeah.
And that you don't need to have all of these to be a good leader. And actually it's about that self-awareness. What have I got? What are my key strengths? And how am I going to use those in my leadership style? And I'll come on to that a bit more later.
Okay, cool.
And one of the theories that underpins that situational leadership is called action-centered leadership. Has anybody heard of this? So this was created back in the 70s by John Adair. And it was saying that to be an effective leader, we need to think about 3 things. The task that we need to perform, the team that we're going to develop to do the task, and individuals within that team who then we're going to actually develop in order for them to excel. So if I give you a little story here. Okay, one of my friends was a manager, and he was managing a new team of 5 people. He was a new manager, the 5 people had worked together for quite some time. One of them came to see him and said, "Is it okay if I leave early today because I want to go and see my child in hospital?" What would you do? What would you say? Yes? Anybody do anything different?
Well, I would look at what needs to be done, who is available to do working with my team. So I'm just looking at your
Slide.
So
Yeah.
that's what I'll do that before I.
And is that naturally what you would do? Or would you say, well, actually, your child's in hospital, feel free to leave? Or would you actually think, do you know what? Better just check what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. You look
Yeah.
at what's going on. But again, I think it depends again because
Oh,
child
I've got a
is-
face of, oh, you heartless man, you. Is that face? A
I
heartless
was
man?
just thinking, there's a mom standing in front of you who came to work even though her child is in hospital. So I'm just asking for a little bit of, I can't imagine someone would say, no, we have to look at first what needs to be done. I don't think so.
Hold those thoughts of where you are in your head at the moment. So 3 o'clock comes, this person picks up their bag, the team says, where are you off to? I'm off, I've okayed it with the boss. And off they go. Now the team come and see you as the leader to find out what's going on. What do you do?
That's confidential, you don't have to share it where you're leaving.
Okay, so it's confidential, you can't share, you haven't agreed with that person that you can share. So what do you do?
But you have to have a backup plan. That's what he's also indicating.
Exactly,
right? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
What's your backup plan? And this is where sometimes we can get it wrong, can't we? Because our natural reaction is, there's a mother stood in front of me, they're in work, I need to let them go. And this is when we actually focus too much on one end of this spectrum. That's why I didn't focus on you, because you gave me the right answer. If you dig a bit deeper into this story, which my friend did, it turned out that the child was a 22-year-old who'd fallen off their horse and broken their leg. Would that change what you did and how you reacted in that situation?
It wouldn't change mine.
And that's because you thought, well, actually, what have we got to do? And one of the key things about leadership, and we've said it here, was effective communication. What is it that you needed to get as a leader out of that person before you made a decision? Were you thinking of everything, or were you just focusing on the individual? And just be aware of, have you got that balance right in your head? Have you got it right in your heart when this happens for you? Because actually, to be an effective leader, what John Adair's theory suggests is that there's a sweet spot, that you have to be aware of the big picture, the tasks that are going on. You have to be aware of the team dynamics, and if you let one person go, how that then will affect the rest of the team. And you have to be aware of individual needs. If you get that slightly wrong, that can mean you're less effective as a leader. So if you're focusing too much on the task and what needs to be done, it's not a fun place to work. You're not a great leader. You might be a bit, oh God, here he comes again.
But doesn't this depend on the context as well? Because I can imagine that in certain teams, the individuals is the person where it all evolves, where it's about, and whereas in other teams, in other maybe research centers, the project is of key value. So depending on where you work and
I'm going to challenge that one
okay.
to suggest that actually you need to get the balance right. And if you balance too much on the individual, the power is then with that individual. If you balance too much on the team, you've got a fantastic team dynamic and really brilliant place to work, but nothing gets done.
Yeah, but in terms of consequences, I think this really differs.
And you have to balance, you have to make it a fun place to work, you have to do the teamwork, and you have to develop the individuals. Because actually, if you just focus on the individual, an individual is not as strong as a team. And if you can get a team working effectively and collaboratively together, they will produce 10 times the amount of work as the individual.
Can we please leave all questions to the end?
Oh no, it's fine. Oh no! Oh, sorry. No. Okay, and this is also then about being congruent. So when you're talking about your effective communication, does everything you do and say link in together? So is your body language, your tone, the words that you're saying really portray you and your leadership style? And when that is all together and the linking, then you have 99% effectiveness in the words that you're saying. When that doesn't, this is when, has anybody ever been in a situation where they've been with their boss and the boss is like looking at their emails or still writing as they're talking, yeah, come in, I can speak to you, but actually their body language is saying, I haven't really got time. Yeah? And how does that make you feel? Valued? Motivated? Passionate? So it's important that when you're communicating and you're thinking in a leadership style, you're thinking of your own leadership, that you are congruent with your communication and communication pattern. Because when that's all aligned, you then have power to influence. How do you feel about power and power to influence? Does that sit with you? Or does it kind of feel a bit I can see some of you, yeah, fine, I'm happy to have the power. Others of you, the word power just feels a bit. But as a leader, you are having to influence. You are having to motivate and inspire. So, have a look at this picture. What do you see?
Old lady and a young girl.
How many of you see the young girl? How many of you see the old lady? And Cliff can see both. How many of you can see both? Excellent. And leadership is about seeing both sides to stories, isn't it? It's not about just having your point of view and pushing it forward, but it's about seeing that bigger picture. What about this one? How do you solve this equation?
Not equal to.
That's one solution. There is another.
One straight line.
Yep.
One left on this left.
You put 30 equals.
That's one solution. There's another. I help you.
Yeah, please. Okay. That's a great one. Not easy to say that one.
And this is the important thing about leadership, isn't it? If we're problem solving as a leader, are we thinking and seeing outside of the box? And we didn't put up problem solving, we put conflict management, which is slightly different. But having that vision, having that strategy, being able to see outside of the box, thinking and looking differently to the rest of the team, to vision and strategy at that high level, is vitally important as a leader. And that's all started to get me thinking about what do I feel is important in leadership, and to really start to explore my theories of leadership and link those into how I'm going to develop leaders within the faculty and across the university. And it got me to think about, well, when I do these sessions, motivational, inspirational, charisma, they all keep coming up. And what is it about motivation that we expect from our leaders? And so one of the areas of research that I'm really interested in is motivational leadership. So just take a moment to think, well, what demotivates you? What turns you off? Somebody will have done that to you at some point, surely. Yeah? What is it?
Nitpicking.
Nitpicking. What else?
Just not sounding enthusiastic.
Demotivated and bored or monotone. Yeah? What else?
Lack of faith in your abilities.
Really feeling undermined. Nobody really values or trusts what I do. Yeah? What else?
Presenting your work as his own.
That's a big one for me. That's a biggie for me, and that totally not only demotivates me, but it goes against one of my values and beliefs, and I just get so cross when I see that. So this is really important, and it's important to understand what demotivates you, but also what motivates. And as a leader, if we think back to that situational leadership and wearing those different hats, being able to motivate all of the team, understanding that not everybody is motivated by what you're motivated by. And that's what I'm researching, and that's what I'm really interested in now moving forward. And it really helps me to think about this in this model. So if I think of leadership as a spectrum, and actually if we're thinking about situational leadership and motivational leadership, we'll be thinking about it along this spectrum. If we're thinking about autocratic leadership, we're at the tail end. I'm just going to tell you what to do, and then you might not feel valued or supported. If I'm devolving it, and I'm like saying, that's fine, you decide what you want to do, you might think, well, I'm not getting any leadership at all. But it's about tiptoeing along that strategy of what's important and where you need to be. So just take a moment, think, where do you feel most comfortable at the moment?
I think I feel comfortable enough there.
Excellent. And it's about realising which one's right for which situation. And also then being aware of other people's body language, because it might feel right for you, and then Cliff next to you might feel that you're nitpicking. So being aware and being able to pick up those cues from people's body language to see if you've actually got the style right. Because finally, and this is an older Afghan proverb, if you think you're leading and nobody's following you, you're just taking a walk. And this is the start of your journey with leadership. And it's not about taking a walk, it's about generating followers, and leaders are people who have followers who actually want to follow them. For all of those reasons. Thank you very much.